Um, I did. Did I enjoy it? Okay, and it's kind of like a multifaceted question. Okay, so when I started it at the very start, I was really enjoying it. I actually, fun fact, never wear a watch when I'm doing a marathon. And I'd also never ran without earphones doing any run.
Ooh.
But a lot of people have told me you'll enjoy it much more and you'll like get the like atmosphere much more if you're not listening to something. And again, like I was like, no, I need something blasting. I need Eminem blasting in my ear so I don't have to think about the pain that I'm in. But I put my AirPods in my pocket and I was like, look, I'll run and I'll see. And I ended up, I had a really bad stitch. I remember like it was obviously, I think it was looking back, like just a mental thing. Got a really bad stitch. And I was like, I just keep running, just get through it, like it will pass. And I ended up being like, okay, I'm just gonna ask like these lads here. They were wearing Iron Man t-shirts. So I was like, this is not their first rodeo. So I think I just asked them something stupid, like just to distract myself, like, how far along are we? Or like what pace are we going at or something like that? Because I didn't know what pace I was even going at. And then I ended up, I know, yeah. And then I ended up running most of the marathon with them. So that was really enjoyable because I'd never done that before. I'd never like ran, especially because it was during COVID. I'd never like ran in a group. I'd never had that camaraderie. We also kind of distracted each other. We talked about like normal stuff, obviously at snail's pace. So we probably ended up only saying about 10 sentences back and forward. So I'd say it was like enjoyable until about 32K. Because I know the previous question you asked me that I actually don't even think I really answered was did I get those 32s in? I did. But every time I did like a 30 or 32, I think I got up to 32, I was like, how am I going to run another 10? Like, absolutely not. Like the way everyone feels before they do the first marathon. But I got to about 32 and I was like, okay, shit, this is quite hard. I still have 10K to go and I'm struggling. And it was also loops. I hate loops. I don't know if either of you have ever done a marathon of loops.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. And
Outlaw
you're
right
like,
in the loops.
I have seen that tree 1,000 times. Like I need to be.
How many loops? How many loops is one of the
Well, there's
gar?
only three. I'm being so dramatic. But
Okay.
the third one seems like a
Oh,
lot like you get to the
yeah,
third one,
done
you're like,
that. Mm.
actually, I think that second one's probably the worst because you're like, I still have to come back here. So got to about 35. And at this point, I was like, okay, I knew kind of what time I was at. But I had to pick up the pace like a small bit. And I ended up being like beside the Pacers. And the Pacers kind of kept me going for those like last kind of 7 kilometers. But like you know yourselves, 7 kilometers when you're in a lot of pain, it feels like Mount Everest.
Yeah.
So those I would say the seven, but in particular the last like one was grueling. I
Mm.
fell over the line. I must actually dig out the photos. I'm raging. I never bought the photos. The photos are the funniest thing ever. Like I'm literally like my mum was like when we were watching Stick, I honestly thought you were going to pass out before you got to the finish line. Like my face, there's a photo of me like this, like when I get over the line because I'm about to get sick into my hands. But I think because I was also about to faint at the same time, because I could see the time, right? And it wasn't like a chipped event. So like you were literally just going off the time that like the big clock. And I was like, I feel like I was literally like 30 seconds away from the time that I told everyone that I was going to get, even though I didn't have a notion. So I kind of had to sprint like the last like 300, 400 meters. It wasn't pretty. It was but I got over the line and I got the goal marathon that I said I would get again, even though I had no notion of like, I think I'd asked people, like, what's a good marathon time? Like, this is what I was going off. And like, kind of half mixed with the times that I'd done my longer distances in. So I don't really know if I had much time to like think then or dissect it. I was kind of like, okay, don't get sick, don't faint, eat, and let's get back to Dublin.
For such a journey on your first one, like me and Sean could write a book on our first marathon and then the aftermath, and then the two of us nearly crying crossing the finish line. You're just sprint finish, don't puke, shut your mouth, get in the car.
Yep.
Any tips for your first marathon? One, don't do it in Mullingar. Two,
Yeah.
don't get sick and just get in the car.
And don't have other plans. You know what?